Nate Olson had a birthday. That was a couple of days ago, and he joins us right now from ScorebookLive.com. Nate, a belated happy birthday, and how are you?
I'm great. I appreciate that, and had a great birthday. And I wanted to just real quickly say that today is my 1-year anniversary at SB Live, and what a great time that's been, and we've covered so much ground in that year. I'm excited about this school year. There were so many things that happened last year that I thought I wish I had started earlier because we would do things a little differently. I started 2 weeks, last year at this time, 2 weeks before football season, hitting the ground running. There's going to be a lot more coverage this year with different sports that we've made allowances for that, we made some notes in the off season and in the summer, like how are we going to cover certain things a little bit more thoroughly. I thought we did a great job with baseball and softball, and we want to do something similar with volleyball and some of the other sports. So it takes a lot of work because there's not a lot of resources on some of these sports to begin with. But we've spent the summer tracking down volleyball coaches, and we'll have a top 25 for volleyball and some other coverage of that. So I'm excited about that, and I'm just very thankful for people like you to help us get the word out, and also all the people that listen, that click and share. It's gone very well in Arkansas, and the people, at the top of the company have taken notice that Arkansas has a lot of support for Scorebook Live, SB Live.
I certainly do, and I mean, you definitely have beefed up your coverage and added more writers, photographers to the list of people that are helping out the coverage. So it looks like great work, and certainly more local stories that are statewide here on ScorebookLive.com. You got a story up about Ryan Mallett making his head coaching debut at Whitehall. I would imagine that is certainly one of the top stories you're paying attention to. What else is catching your eye, or that you're going into training camp thinking top of mind here for high school football in 2022?
Well, that's one of them, and I'll talk just real quick about that. I know that's not quite in the coverage area, but people are interested with him being a former Razorback. I think it was an interesting hire by Whitehall. He was the offensive coordinator at Mountain Home. And we'll talk about Mountain Home in a little bit. They've done a great job under Coach Airy, and Ryan was one of the catalysts in having some success with their offense. I think the kids really took to him, and the administration at Whitehall is hoping for the same sort of thing. A younger guy who can bring some enthusiasm in. He's following one of the best coaches ever to coach, in Bobby Bowling. I've got a lot of respect for him. Covered him at 2 or 3 different schools in my time here, and he's won at every place. And so Ryan does have some big shoes to fill, but I think it's a good place for him to get his head coaching career going, and they're going to have to fill a lot of holes right away. They went to the championship in 5A last year, but lose a lot of those good players. So a little bit of a rebuilding effort for him, but I think with his enthusiasm and his philosophy offensively, that they can get some of the younger kids excited about football in Whitehall. They're already excited, but get a few more out there. So that's one of them. And I think, to go locally, I think a lot of eyes are on Greenwood. We talked about the story on Kane Archer. He's a freshman, a ninth grader, high school. The backup quarterback at Greenwood, Hunter Houston, in my mind, is one of the better quarterbacks in the state, and he's the incumbent. But a lot of people, including us, have written and talked a lot about Kane Archer. And so I think one of the questions that a lot of people have is, will Kane Archer play? And Coach Young at Greenwood said, yeah, he's going to get in the game. It's a lot of times your quarterback gets a little banged up, and it's whether the backup goes in for a couple series or for the entire game or a couple games. Houston's had some problems with his shoulder. He got knocked out of the game with a concussion in the championship game, so he missed a couple games last year. So that would be an instance where Archer would play, and so I think they're prepared for him to play. I think Greenwood has a fantastic team. They would be a team that I would project is going to have a very good chance to win that league, the 6A West, a more beefier, even tougher 6A West with the addition of Pulaski Academy, Little Rock Christian, that they'll be there in December. And I think in Little Rock. I think that they've got a little bit of a bone to pick with getting there last year and not being able to finish it off. Kind of sat in their craw all year. Didn't play great in that game. El Dorado played really well. We had the injury with Houston that didn't help. So I think they're always ready to go at Greenwood. I think this is going to be a special year, and it's going to be the quarterback situation is something that people around the state and maybe the country even are going to be looking at, and if Archer does play. Obviously, that's a huge national story, a freshman playing on a team that's a title contender. So that's something we're definitely looking at Shiloh Christian and others that are moving up. We talked about Pulaski Academy moving up, Little Rock Christian. Robinson moves to 5A. They're the defending 4A champions. And Shiloh Christian moves up to 5A. And I think just like Robinson, they played last year in the 4H title game. Both those teams are going to have a chance. But I think Shiloh even has a better chance because I think they've got, more of their key players coming back. They're going to be a major player, in that 5A West. That's going to be a good conference with Farmington and them squaring off some other teams. I like Eli Wisdom a lot. He's been the quarterback since sophomore year, starter, and he's athletic. He runs, and I think some Power 5 schools are looking at him for maybe other positions other than quarterback, but he has a couple of mid-major offers at QB, but they've got some big guys in the trenches. They've got some playmakers on the outside. I don't think there's any reason why they can't win the West and then also make a deep run in the playoffs. So they just, Jeff Conaway has been there 9 years. It's hard to believe he's been there that long. But he, guys like him and, Anthony Lucas that is also doing a transition, they've been around a while. They understand. Eric Koyu at Little Rock Christian, Coach Escola at Robinson. They've been around long enough that they understand how to adjust the competition. And the depth is going to be a factor in some of those situations because you're going to have much less numbers. But, that's something that you look at as a challenge. You challenge your kids. And those programs are great enough that I think they can overcome some of that. So I think that at all levels, anybody that's moving up, Harding Academy is doing the same thing. I talked to their coach last week about that, and they're a little bit undermanned, and they've lost their quarterback. Cade Smith is a Razorback baseball commit. He's not playing this year, but in most all instances, those coaches are embracing that, saying, "Let's go, let's prove to them that we can play." And I think in the 6A West and the 5A West, that's going to be real interesting to see how Shiloh blends in, how Little Rock Christian and PA blend in. I'm really looking forward to that PA Greenwood game. I think it's October 29th. That's going to be a huge game. It's going to be fun. And those teams have history. They played before, so it'll be a lot of fun to see that. And that's just some of the scenarios. And then also, Bryant. No, that's not necessarily in the coverage area either, but 4 straight state titles. We think it's going to be 5 for them. I don't know that they'll lose in the state again. They play a team from Denton, Texas, the second week of the year. That'll probably be their toughest game. And there are some challenges that do await them in the league, I think, with Conway and North Little Rock. And I think North Little Rock's going to be better than some people think. Very good defensively. Got some good talent there. Some guys they got that moved in and a guy that they got back from injury. So they always, battle them pretty good. Conway's got a pretty good team. And then you look at Bentonville. I think they're a team that could give Bryan a run maybe, but we think it's going to be 5 in a row. And I think last year was the year that Bryant could have lost, and they were a little bit more invincible than they had been. And Conway and Fayetteville just couldn't quite get the job done, even though they kind of had them on the ropes.
Nate Olson with us from Scorebook Live, as thorough as you will find in high school sports coverage in the entire state for certain. You mentioned Bryant going for their 5th state championship. Of course, we're a long way until we get there. They beat Fayetteville for it last year. Fayetteville and Bentonville have flip-flopped from the past couple of years, but they've been the teams at the top of the 7A West for 2 years running now. Do you see anything that would... Now, you already said you think Bentonville could give Bryan a run for their money, so that tells me you might see Bentonville at the top of the 7A West. Would that be true as far as you're concerned, Nate?
Yes, it would. I would pencil them in. But a team that I like a lot, and we haven't talked a lot about them, last year is Bentonville West. At first, talk about Bentonville. A guy that Razorback fans know a lot of is Joey Sua, a big lineman, not only probably the best in Arkansas, one of the best recruits overall in Arkansas, but one of the best in the country. He's got to be one of the better linemen. And I haven't seen all the rankings, but he's terrific. He's very, very dominant, especially at the high school level. I mean, he looks like, he's a college junior and blocks extremely well. Even if you have one guy, I mean, they normally have good offensive lines all the way across the board at Bentonville, but one guy, he's that good, can really help you. They're breaking in a new quarterback, so that's going to be a bit of an issue with Carter Nye. I mean, I think he got some experience last year and played, so, he'll just kind of have to get his feet wet, but he did play some. But a guy that'll help him out a lot is Josh Ficklin. He's their bell cow running back. He'll take a lot of the heat early, the pressure off. But I think Bentonville has the makings that the interesting thing is going to be with Bentonville West. They have played a lot of young players throughout the last couple of years. Now those guys have grown up, and they've got like 16 starters or 17 starters returning. And Jake Casey, the 6'4", 180-pound senior or junior, started last year as a sophomore. I really like them a lot. And, they'll play Bentonville probably, I think, with a conference championship on the line, which will be really interesting because only a few miles separate their campuses there in Benton County. And so I think with the right bounces, West can challenge Bentonville. And if it comes down to where they both are 1-2 at the end of the year, that's going to be a really good game. Fayetteville will have something to say about it. I think, Casey Dick has kind of planted his flag in the program, and things are going really well for them last year. And I think they got a lot of people on the same page. The problem is a lot of those people graduated. You see, like Isaiah Satania, you hear Sam Pittman talk about him, about how he's so good at making tribute for the Hogs this year. And that guy, you lose him off a high school team. Super valuable, our athlete of the year last year, great track athlete. So it's hard to replace somebody like that. You've got a new quarterback, too. Bladen Fike is gone. You've got Lindsay that's moving in. We all know about their lineage. He's a big kid. If he can take over the offense, they have the talent, even though they're inexperienced, to challenge. And then a team like Harbor, they have had a lot of success there under Chris Wood, but the last few years, injuries have kind of bitten them. And they've got a very good quarterback in Luke Buchanan. I like him a lot. He can run it, throw it. I think he's one of the more underrated players, mainly because they haven't had the kind of success that, the more you win, the more acclaim you're going to get. And so he's kind of flown under the radar. But I feel like if they can get things, if they can stay healthy, I mean, they have talent, and Chris Wood's a great coach. So you kind of wait in the last couple of years, and maybe year before not as great, and last year, still kind of, middle of the pack. Is this going to be the year that maybe they stay healthy and break out? I don't think that this is a Bentonville team that is just a super juggernaut that will roll over everybody without much problem. I think, they can be beaten. So, a team like Harbor could possibly get that done. They're going to have to stay healthy, keep Buchanan healthy, but he is a very good quarterback. And then, you've got some other teams in that league, too, that are better than they have been. But I think it's going to start with those teams at the top, probably.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. Bet online, where the game starts.